Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone who took the time to log into today's business personal property statement Q&A session hosted by the Los Angeles County Office of the Assessor, Jeff Prang. My name is Aldo Macias Arellano, and I'm a special assistant in the Assessor's Public Affairs team. As the annual business property statement deadline approaches, we have gathered with subject matter experts from the office to help answer your questions. Please note that the information provided today is intended to provide general information and summary of how to prepare and submit the business personal property statement, also known as the 571L form. The information is not intended to be a legal interpretation of official guidance, but rather is a presentation of summary of information. We encourage you to consult with your financial and legal advisors on your personal situation. Please note that this Q&A session is being recorded and will be posted on the assessor's website, YouTube, and social media channels. Additional videos and resources can be found by visiting assessor.lacounty.gov/videos. Today, we will have a brief overview of the business personal property statement presented by Office of the Assessor Principal Appraiser Frank Pavon, followed by a discussion on commonly asked questions, and then followed by an opportunity for you, the public, to answer and ask questions and then being answered. After all this, we will bring additional support in 5 different languages: English, Mandarin, Cantonese, Armenian, and Farsi in different breakout rooms. I'd now like to introduce Frank Pavon, who began his career with the Office of the Assessor 20 years ago. He is currently the Principal Appraiser in the East District, which oversees all business and audit functions. Please welcome Frank.
It's the items you use in your business. So that includes machinery and equipment, office furniture, computers, supplies. And this is the type of property that you're going to be reporting on your form. Now, there are some things that are not taxable personal property, and they include things you have at home that are not part of your business. Personal effects. If you have a business that sells a product, that product is exempt. So it's good to know the difference between the two. That way, you're not reporting items that are not assessable. And then we have non-taxable intangible property, which includes bank accounts, bonds, licenses. These items are not tangible, which means you can't physically touch them, and the majority of them are not assessed. Next slide, please. So what gives us the authority to assess your property? California Constitution, Article 13, Section 1A says that all property is taxable. And I should add, all property is taxable unless exempt. Okay. In general, properties that are owned and used by educational, charitable, religious, or government organizations may be exempt. That includes federal properties such as a courthouse, public schools, nonprofit organizations. Now, if you have a business and you think that you're a nonprofit organization, then you may be exempt from taxes, but you have to apply for an exemption. It's not automatically granted. There is an application process, and that usually goes through our legal exemption section. Next slide, please. So who are we? What do we do? So the assessor's basic responsibilities include locating all taxable property in the county and identifying ownership. It's very important that we assess the correct individual or company. Another thing that we do is we establish a taxable value for all properties subject to tax. So filling out the property statement correctly helps us to establish a correct assessment and also make sure we have the correct owner. We also do an assessment roll showing all assessed values in the county of LA. We usually post this on our website every year, so you're more than welcome to look at it. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we apply all legal exemptions. Next slide, please. So why did you receive this form? How did we find you? One of the most common ways is with this form itself. we get information from the property statement, and someone will tell us, you know what, our business is closed down. We sold the business to so and so, so therefore we close that business that sold the business, and we request a property statement from the new owner. Also, we do a field canvas every year, and we cover all of LA County. And our appraisers typically go out from August to February or March. So some of you may have encountered one of our appraisers along the way. Um, we also do property tax audit. This form itself is subject to property tax, to an audit. And when we do an audit, we perform an audit that covers up to 4 years. So we can go back 4 years. So if we're talking about the current year, which is 2023, we can go back to 2020, 21, 22, and 23, so 4 years. We also get information from sales tax permits, business journals, websites, city license records. Next slide, please. Now, there was another question that I want to address also from Amy. She said, if they have multiple locations, are able to combine all the locations under one form? Yes, you do have the option to do that. If you have several branches and you want to file under one form, you are allowed to do that. You will get a form for the other branches too. All you can list on the other branches where you're reporting zero cost, you can mention all assets and equipment reported under the main location or the headquarter. And you are able to consolidate them into one.
Hi, Frank. We should have the slideshow up and running again.
Okay, thank you. So continuing with the slideshow. So a 571L is required if one of two conditions is met, okay? One being the law requires any person owning personal property and fixtures in the county with an aggregate cost over 100,000. So if you have over 100,000 in equipment costs, then you are required to file a business property statement, even if the assessor did not request such a filing. And the second condition where a 571L is required is if the assessor requests one. So if you receive one by mail, you are required to submit it back to our office, even if you don't have $100,000 in cost. Next slide, please. So when does your property become taxable? It becomes taxable on the lien date, which is 12:01 a.m. on January 1st. The lien date is the same every year. Personal property is assessable and taxable only on this date. Also, I'd like to add that the property has to be physically in the county for it to be assessable. So if it's something that's in transit, if it's something, let's say you purchase an equipment from overseas, if it's not in the county of LA, then it is not assessable. So if you have something in Orange County, that would be reportable to Orange County, not us, not LA County. So again, you would declare costs and other related property information as of this date on the property statement form. Next slide, please. When do you need to file your 571L? So some important dates that are very important is the form is due on April 1st. And we always get calls with requests for extensions from this April 1st date. The next bullet point will answer that. The annual deadline for filing without a penalty is 5 p.m. on May 7th. If May 7th happens to fall on a weekend or a holiday, the deadline is moved to the next business day, which applies for 2023, because this year May 7th falls on a Sunday. Therefore, your deadline is May 8th without a 10% penalty. And
I don't think the slides are changing again.
Next slide. Oh no, this is the correct slide. Oh no, back to the previous slide. Robert, can everyone see that important date slide? Okay. Yes. So if your form is not filed to us by 5 p.m. on May 8th this year, there is a 10% penalty that's added to your assessment. Now, if you don't file the form at all, our office is obligated to assess or estimate the value of your property. So when we do that, we'll put a value on it, depending on best available information, and we'll also add a 10% penalty for that. So business property tax bills entered on the unsecured roll as of July 1st of this year are due by August 31st of 2023. Again, if the tax bill is not paid timely, there is some penalties, there's interest, and there's collection fees if that date, if that tax bill goes unpaid. Next slide, please. So one thing you need to know is the business property statement is confidential. It's not open for a public inspection. It can only be viewed by the owner or their agent representative. So if you have a CPA or an agent that you want to get copies of the business property statement, whether it's a current or prior filing, we need an agent authorization form. This allows us to give copies to someone else other than the owner. Next slide, please. So that's the end of the overview of just basic information regarding the office and assessments and what gives us the right to assess your property through a business property statement. Aldo, are you there?
Yes, I'm currently here. My camera's not working, but now we are bringing it to the next segment of this webinar, which is we have a series of commonly asked questions regarding the filing of the annual property statement form 71L. And so we're going to go through these questions, and after this, folks will get the opportunity to ask their own questions. So the first question reads, am I required to file the business property statement?
As I mentioned earlier, there are two conditions that one of two have to be met in order to file or to be required to file a business property statement. One is if you have over 100,000 in costs, and the second is if the assessor requests the form. And that happens usually if we do a field canvas, we'll go out there and we'll find a new business, we'll get some basic information, and then we'll request a form through mail.
Thank you so much, Frank. Now, the second question is, when is the lien date? I know we've touched this briefly, but can you clarify that? Arnold, would you be able to answer that question? You might be on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the property becomes taxable on the lien date, which is 12:01 a.m. as of January 1st. That's applicable to all years. So it's always 12:01 a.m. of that particular year.
Thank you so much, Arnold.
You're welcome.
The next question, the form is due April 1st. Can I get an extension?
So while the form is due April 1st, we will accept the filing without a 10% late filing penalty until May 7th. If May 7th fall on a weekend or holiday, then the form will be due the next business day. So for example, this year, 2023, May 7th is on Sunday. So your business property statement will not be charged the late filing penalty until May 8th. So as long as you submit it by 5 p.m. May 8th, Monday, there will be no penalty. Anything received afterwards will be a late filing penalty, which is a 10%. So that's the automated extension already in place.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Now, what if I don't file the business property statement form? What happens then?
The assessor is required by law to estimate the value of your business property and fixtures on the lien date. In addition, a 10% non-filing penalty will be added to the assessed value.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Next question, can I file my statements online? Is that an option?
Yes, that's an option. You can e-file. So in 2022, we had over 43,000 e-filed property statements. And what you need are two things. You basically need your assessment number and you need a PIN number. So the first time filers usually will not have a PIN assigned. However, you can call us or send us an email. And if you have something to write down, this is a phone number where you can call us. It's area code 213-974-2643, or you can email us at efileassist@assessor.lacounty.gov, and our e-file team can assist you with getting a PIN number. But essentially, we had over 81,000 eligible e-files in 2022, and we expect 2023 to have a higher number as well. So that is easily available for all the taxpayers.
Thank you very much, Brenda. And now, would you mind writing that phone number in the email on the chat so folks can have it available to them?
Yes, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you very much. Next question. What if I discover an error in my filing after I have submitted the form?
If you discover that you made an error in your filing after you have submitted the form to our office, you have an option to submit an amended file statement by May 31st of each year.
Thank you very much, Christine. Next question. If I had equipment disposals in the prior year, how do I report this?
Yeah, so if you have disposal costs, you're going to adjust them in the year the purchase was made, not the year that the equipment was disposed. So that means if you disposed of, let's say, a computer, and it was purchased in 2015, but you disposed of it in 2022, you want to remove the original cost of the computer from the 2015 year, not from 2022 on your form.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next question. What if I disagree with my assessed values? What can I do?
If you disagree with your assessed value, which is what your taxes are based on, you can go to the online website for the LA County Board of Supervisors Assessment Appeals Board Division and file an appeal. And you can file that application online, and you have from July 2nd through November 30th. I'm sorry, July 2nd through November 30th to file an appeal. I just want to caution you that even if you file an appeal and you dispute your bill and you disagree with the bill, that you still pay the bill by August 31.
Thank you. Would you mind writing that website on the chat just so that folks can have it available to them?
I will go ahead and do that.
Thank you very much. That's a great resource. Final two questions. The next one is, do you prorate the tax bill if I was only in business parts of the year?
No, your unsecured tax bill is not prorated. I'm stressing that out. We do not prorate tax bills, even if you were only at that situs for part of the year. However, if you moved to that situs after the lien date, you wouldn't be liable for property taxes for that respective year. But I'm stressing out, even if you were only at that situs for part of the year, you're still liable for taxes, and it's not, we do not prorate any tax bills.
Thank you very much, Alanush. And final question, when is my tax bill due?
Thank you, Aldo. Tax bills are mailed out between March 1st and June 30th, and then they become due on August 31st of each year by 5 p.m. They become delinquent if not paid by that date.
What is the penalty for that?
There's a 10% penalty. The longer you delay in paying the tax bill, there's interest that's accumulated and also collection costs. And then it eventually, if it's not paid, it becomes a tax lien, which might affect your credit.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, there's a 10% penalty for filing late, and then there are interest that accrues until we pay the actual bill as well. And potentially another 10% penalty if we don't pay the bill by August 31st, or just the one.
There's a 10% penalty for filing the form late or not filing at all.
Right.
And there's penalties also for not paying the tax bill.
So two, okay.
Yes.
And then
those are
what's
two
the
separate
interest?
things.
What's the interest rate?
Okay, so we have three departments that compromise the property tax system. The assessor, which is us, and we apply, we assess all property. And then the auditor controller, depending on your area where you live, I'm sorry, where your business is, they apply the tax rates. And the third department that's involved is the tax collector. And they're responsible for sending out the tax bills and collecting payments. So the tax rate and the interest is applied by the LA County Auditor Controller, which is a separate department than us. And we have no jurisdiction with their responsibilities.
No, that's.
Mary, go ahead and ask your question, please. And we have a room full of experts.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, when there's an audit, how do I mean, because often the audits aren't exactly for equipment that I have. I do a spreadsheet with all the equipment that we purchase and we have and total it every year, but it's like they'll just say it's this number. So so basically, can I just knock out all the equipment and just say this is the number left?
Mary, I don't quite understand your question. Can you rephrase that? If we do a property tax audit, you'll get a letter from us notifying you of an audit, okay?
Right.
And when we do an audit, we'll ask for your financial statements, fixed asset list, depreciation
Correct.
schedules. And during the process of the audit, we might ask for invoices. And that applies when sometimes on your asset list, you have a general description of an asset and we don't know how to classify it. We'll ask for an invoice to determine what it is and whether it's accessible or
May I
not.
interrupt you because I'm way past that.
Okay.
We got the auditor's report. I was just looking at it. It's 20 pages long. So basically, I want my numbers to match what the auditor has. The numbers don't always match per equipment that I have put in, obviously, because they may round things off or whatever. So my question is, I usually just add a line that says auditors changes or whatever. But this report, I've never seen a report that's 20 pages long from an auditor. So I guess for me, it's like, what pages am I really looking at that do I go to the market value computation for each one of the sections, or which one am I supposed to use? Or would there have been something else that gives me the final numbers I'm supposed to use to start from?
So the auditor send you his work papers, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
20 pages.
I would do two things. Number one, contact the auditor and have him walk you through his work papers. And a lot of times that explains the confusion with his format of presenting you the information. Yeah. If that doesn't work, always keep in mind if you got any tax bills because of the audit, you have 60 days to appeal those audit findings. In case we need to look at it further, and to protect your rights also in case there's anything that needs to be corrected in that audit. But call the auditor or call his supervisor, talk to them, and have them walk you through it so you can understand what they're doing.
Okay. My problem is I'll have to find out who that was because the CPA did it, and that's why I'm lost.
Usually, when we send you our letter of findings, the auditor's name is on there also, and the phone number is on there.
See that. Okay,
yeah.
That was all I needed to know.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Friends?
Sorry, I came back. Virginia and her colleagues were helping me in another room, but I just realized something, so I had to come back. So the building in Atlanta is excluded, but then if that's the case, then what is part 2, row 4 of the form? What is that line for? Maybe I'm confused, but on part 2, question number 4, it includes a building, and from my understanding, the building in Atlanta is excluded. So I'm a little bit confused on that one.
Who was helping you? And what was your question with
So to my
Virginia, you said?
understanding, the land and building should be excluded for this purpose. But on the form itself, part 2, question number 4 says buildings, building improvement, and or leasehold improvement, land improvement, and land. But then as far as I'm
Yeah, so you reported that if it is structure, we will not assess it.
also you reported, but it will not be used for the assessment. Okay, thank you.
But make sure you fill out the 571D, or you supply us with a list of what those assets are. So if it's, like I said, a fence, you're going to let us know 20% was for a fence, 50% was for fixing the roofing, and 10% was electrical wiring for a printing press, or whatever it is. You want to report that on the 571D or a supplemental schedule. If you have any costs that you're reporting on the bottom part of the form, the Schedule B, you need to give us detail.
While we do ask you to report those costs, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get assessed by it. So like I said, if you give us a description of what you added, then we'll be able to determine if it's accessible or not. But if it's a fixture item, which is item 2 under Schedule B, then we will assess it on the business property statement form. Okay. And that's if it's a leasehold fixture item that's related to the process of your business.
Oh, I have I have also an additional information for that. So if you have the instruction of the business property statement, the last page, we have here the examples of structures and examples of fixture items. You might want to check those ones so you can differentiate what's the difference between the two.
Okay, thank you.
Very good point, Arnold. Yeah, our forms do come with instructions, and looking at the fine print can be tedious, I know, but it does give you examples of type of things that are accessible or the type of assets that you should be reporting on there, whether it's supplies or leasehold improvements. Yolanda?
Mine was just a comment on the audit. I also got all the work papers from my auditor, but then I received also a 1-page summary, and it's literally called Summary of Audit Findings, and it would show her the reported cost, the audited cost, and so the new market difference. So she should have one of those forms in all those pages that she received.
And that's the summary of findings that I was trying to tell her, where the auditor's information name is on there, and then the phone number to call.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, have to ask the CPA for that. Thanks. Not here. Yeah.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions? We do have about 13 more minutes and with you all, so if you have any last lingering questions, feel free to do so. All right, well, hearing none, I guess we can end our webinar today on the business property statement. Once again, I want to thank everybody in the public for joining us. We will make sure to send a follow-up email with the resources that were mentioned today. Once again, I'd like to remind you that we do have additional videos, instructional videos on the assessor's website. That is assessor.lacounty.gov/videos. So please feel free to check out those resources that are available to you. I want to thank everybody from the Office of the Assessor staff for joining us and answering the questions. Please stay tuned for more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.